Hey guys, Bicepump bring you another Dragonflight Unholy video. Today we're taking a look at the 23 Azure Vault I ran yesterday. And again, you might notice that this is without a healer. Double Shadow Priest and Enhancement actually works remarkably well when it comes to off-healing, and the Paladin tank does a very good job at healing up everyone. I think this is a interesting kind of way to play dungeons. Like, it's fun to show that you can, you know, do things that are a bit different and still succeed quite well, you know. We did do a 24 before this point, but we just barely wiped on the penultimate boss, unfortunately. So we had to do 23. But we'll manage to time this, no problem, which is quite nice. We are running the, what I call the Army Garg build, which picks up both Army of the Dead and Gargoyle to get that really good priority burst damage, right? I'll bring it up on screen here so you guys can have a look. The whole point of this build is for every 3 minutes, time your Army and Gargoyle with Puzzle Box and ideally Unholy Sword to get really good priority burst damage. This is especially useful on Bolstering Week. On packs where you have one big target, putting your Gargoyle and Army into that can trivialize a pack, which would have otherwise become difficult, as you know, that single mob became very bolstered, yeah? This happens, you know, in Academy, you have that big worm, and this dungeon will have a couple of big mobs we have to deal with, like the guy up there, yeah? Great opportunity to do leverage some really good priority damage, right? Did I run? Yeah, I think I'm running Hardened Bones here, so making Lichborn an extra defensive. I quite like running the Deafening Case low, right, Grip for Dead, but Hardened Bones becomes really valuable when you start going into high Tyrannical keys. Like the first boss here, for instance, he has 2 abilities, which are these like big hitters, and having, you know, just an extra defensive to deal with them is huge and very valuable, right? I am, again, you know, running my normal kind of trinket setup with Possible, which I said previously is very important for this build, because it synergizes so well with our burst windows. But then we also run Grief Torch. This is kind of like a fine trinket. It gives you good like priority burst damage, and it does some cleave, but I would much rather run something like you know, Hunger the Pack or Icon, for instance, some passive trinkets to just boost my damage, right? Running Follow Crusader as always, and then I'm running far too much haste when it comes to gear. I generally do pick up the Corruption Vial to kind of increase my crit because it's really quite low. But in this dungeon, I felt like I needed to prioritize some survivability, which is why I picked up Versatility Flask. In hindsight, I could have pretty easily run the Corruption one without any issues, which would have given me quite a lot more DPS. When it comes to my stats, you know, Crit and Mastery are better in Mythic Plus. They make you deal more AoE damage, that's just a fact. So once I manage to acquire a bit more gear at a bit higher level, I will swap around so I get a better like balanced set for my Mythic Plus builds, right? When it comes to the rotation, right, I talked about the 3-minute burst window, right? But let's cover, you know, generally how do we deal with the Mythic Plus rotation as always? How do we specifically deal with it when we have our burst ready, so Army and Gargoyle? And how do we engage with bosses? I think those 3 things are important to cover. First of all, the Mythic Plus rotation is the following. You always start with a Naked Skirt Strike to get Playbringer going. You follow up with Unholy Blight if you have that ready, or Outbreak if you don't, right, to apply your diseases. After this point, we just press all our cooldowns. So this means pressing Dark Transformation, Unholy Assault, right, Abomination Limb, and Apocalypse, right? And if you don't have any of those ready, just skip that step, right? Apocalypse does require wounds to use, so if you don't have Unholy Assault, you're gonna do 1 or 2 Fasting Strikes to be able to get those wounds up to Apocalypse, right? One thing though is that you don't want to spend too much time doing that. Sometimes it's fine to do a single Fasting Strike into an Apocalypse at 2 or 3 wounds, yeah? I don't mind too much, that happens. And it's not a disaster, right? Alright, after you use all your cooldowns, you dump your runic power with Epidemic until you reach 10 seconds after you use that first Naked Scout Strike, when it's time to press another one to refresh your Plaguebringer. Plaguebringer uptime is just incredibly important keys, and something you want to focus heavily on if you feel like your DPS is low. You can have a look at your details after your dungeon is done, just to make sure that your Plaguebringer uptime is 90% plus. That is what you're aiming for. If it's lower than that, it means that you're not pressing Scourge Strike enough. You need to make sure you press it to keep up your Plaguebringer, right? Anyway, that second Scourge Strike ideally comes inside a Deafening Decay. So what I like to do to figure out, okay, when is the time to use my Deafening Decay, I look at my Plaguebringer window, and when it's time to refresh it, I pop down Deafening Decay and press that Scourge Strike to get my Plaguebringer up again. This also has the benefit of, giving you Festamite stack. Your Dark Transformation has been spreading wounds during those 7 seconds you've been up, right? And it also generates an absolute ton of runic power. Every wound, it gives you 3 runic power by default, and then an extra, I don't know, 3, 5, 4, I don't know. The talent has some extra, right? Which means that you would just kind of like cap on runic power instantly, which means you can then follow up by doing lots of epidemics. And then you can hit another Scourge Strike in Deafening Decay, again, bursting lots of wounds, giving you Festamite stacks, and give you more runic power to funnel into Epidemic. Right? The whole point of this initial burst window is to generate as much runic power as possible, so you can then dump that into the Epidemic and deal the actual damage to the pack. That's how it works. Now, after your Deafening Decay has finished, right, you can pop down a second one. If you don't have it ready, your rotation kind of evolves into just use Festing Strike to build some wounds, burst them with Scourge Strike, and then just spend all the rune power you gain by spending Epidemic, right? That's how it works. Now let's talk about how does this change when you have Army and Gargle. Well, in that scenario, you want to use Army as you run into the pack. You hit your first Scourge Strike, and then immediately, right, with that Scourge Strike, press Gargle. You want to get it up early, because ideally, 5 seconds later, after you use a couple of cooldowns, comes the Unholy Assault, and that needs to be 5 seconds after Gargle to get maximum overlap towards the end, which is what you're looking for. Furthermore, you're also going to press Unholy Assault at this point, Posture Box, right, which is going to feed into your Gargle even more and get that 20-second overlap at the end. Gargle deals more damage towards the end, which is why we want to guarantee we have all our buffs up and running at that point. That is why we use Gargle at the start, yeah, and you will see me do it. Once that's up, we're going to do the same thing as before. You spend that runic power, feed into Gargle, yeah. That's the whole kind of idea of it. If you want to be really fancy about it, get a Thundering Tracker and try and use Gargle when there's, what is it, 15 seconds? 15 plus, sorry, how's my math here? How long is Thundering? 12 seconds? I think it's 12 plus 15, yeah. Around 30 seconds before Thundering, and you will get it towards the end. Yeah, great. Alright. For the single target opener, right, looks similar. Well, it actually is pretty much identical. The real difference is that is there a difference? No. The difference is that you replace that Epidemic talk I discussed with using Death Call, right? And the Deafening Decay doesn't get used either. It's much simpler. You just build your wounds with Festing Strike, burst with Scourge Strike, make sure your dot is on the target, which is obviously you should also do in AoE, yeah? And then you kind of just do the normal rotation. It's much simpler than doing AoE, yeah? Alright, so that's kind of what I want to discuss, when it comes to rotation. Now we can do the commentary of the video. You see, we'd already dealt with the first boss. I managed to do quite a lot of damage there. because I saved up my army and gargle for the opening burst where I got PI. Did I get PI? I think I got PI and Bloodlust, and he scales incredibly well with haste there. We're doing some shenanigans here. The tank pulls him away, we run past, we grip him over, and he then, what's it called? Snatches the mobs? There's a specific word for it. Pull them in, we got a big pull there. I do my rotation as I always say, you know. Skirt Strike into Blight, DT, double Festering, right? I didn't pop down Deafening there to refresh my Playbringer, but I did it to GCD after. It's a bit of a hectic one, right? There's not a lot of space to stand, right? So I'm just kind of towards the end, towards the edge of the pool, making sure I don't die here. And then we can put down a second Deafening here, I believe. You can see there's quite a lot of wounds in the pack. It helps to do Deafening to keep up your 2-set buff, for instance. It just means that even though you don't have wounds in your main target, someone probably has it, which means you don't have to kind of deal with the fact that you have to build wounds. You can just hit Skirt Strike to do it, right? When we do a single target rotation, right, I can get to that later. Our POC and DT, it doesn't matter which way around we do it. We're not running Command of Dead, right, which is the case where we do need to be careful about it. In this case, they kind of just have to come together, and that's fine. Yeah. Alright, got next pack, we've got cooldowns there, so I'm going to use Skirt Strike, Blight, you know. I had wounds available already to do Apocalypse, going to spend my Runic Power, Deafening, single Skirt Strike, right? And then we spam on Epidemics, right? Once we can't do that anymore, we do another Skirt Strike, spam Epidemics, Skirt Strike, spam Epidemics, right? That's the kind of vibe. Alright. Pack's going down quite quickly. That heavy tome, by the way, it's a tank buster, but it doesn't do any damage, so you can pretty much ignore that. Much better to interrupt, for instance, Arcane Fury by gripping, or Waking Bane, which is one that sleeps people. That's like higher priority, because if they get slapped and then he does Forbidden Knowledge, you know, you're kind of dead. You can see at this point, we kind of haven't had any issues with healing. Tank is just throwing out, what's it called? Word of Glories. So, no problem there. Right. We have a big target here. We have Army Gargoyle. Let's take a look at this opener. I'm going to focus on killing the Thrasher. So I'm going to do Army. There we go. And we have an early, right? Using our, what's it called? Dark Arbiter early. So now when there's like, oh god. Mistake there. Right? I used my puzzle box and everything when there was like 16 seconds left on Gargoyle. Far too late. However, I got disrupted by the fact that he did this big AoE, which was a bit annoying, but ideally, you should use Unholy Assault and your puzzle 5 seconds after using Gargoyle. That's the idea. Alright, pack is just melting. We're at 180k, so solid effort, I'd say. Let's see. Alright. All good. We're going to jump down. I got my little parasol here. Going to do the little Mary Poppins vibe and drop down. We do this to more efficiently reach the next boss, so we can use Bloodlust there. Kind of relatively early. Alright. Setting up for a big pool. I'm a responsible DPS. Don't touch them before you're actually about to kill them. These constructs, they put on a shield, so it's important to target them. Here we go again. So Naked Skirt Strike. We go in. Why is it so slow? Oh, it's fine. I was like, it's playback speed too slow here. Or is it just lagging? I don't know. Anyway, you get the vibe, right? Pop out my cooldowns. Deafening Gaze coming down soon here. I should have used it a bit earlier, to be honest, but it's what it is. And then we're spamming Epidemic. Maybe I just... Oh, here we go. Alright. Just leveraging all that runic power. Spending as many Epidemics as we can. I think that's another point, right? I talked about it. You know, plague bring up time, one thing, epidemic damage is another, right? If I look at someone doing with plus and those two are not where I would expect them to be, it means they're not doing it correctly. Because that's two primary things you should think about. As well as, you know, using cooldowns. For instance here, the pack is almost dead, but I know that these guys will live for quite a long time more. So I am going to leverage my cooldown to, you know, make sure we actually kill them. And you can see, you know, Blight's over there. So I did get full value of it. Alright, these are going down. We're going to head on to the next room. Surprisingly, you will see next boss, you know, you might think, oh, hang on, how are they going to deal with that boss? There's a big healing requirement in the intermission. It turns out, as a Shadow Priest, you can just solo that pretty much. And we have two of them. They dot everything up, they heal a absolute ton, and there's just no issues at all dealing with it. Alright, unfortunately, we couldn't snap these because the priest didn't have their grip available. Alright. I get quite a lot of questions about, you know, my gear. People go like, you know, why don't you have a, you know, icon equipped, or why don't you run these rings? Why do you have crafted rings? Honestly, the answer is pretty much always I don't have them available to me. You know, I don't have an infinite amount of gear, so I kind of just have what I have. And there's really nothing for me to choose on, which is in similar eye level. There will probably be later, so you can see I will probably, you know, try and get rid of some mass haste to go into heavier into crit, that kind of thing. But at this point in time, you know, I have two crafted rings because when I had the sparks, that was like by far the best immediate upgrade for me. And then also, let's see. You know, it works well with the stats. You know, if you can guarantee haste mastery rings, it's really good for your raid stats as Unholy, because that's what you want. So getting those rings is like a good way of spending your money and sparks. Oops. So I managed to draw aggro there, unfortunately, because the tank was a bit too far away. But we're doing an opener. You see that early. What's it called? Early gargle. Alright, we want to use Unholy Sword. That came a bit late. I nearly died there because I got stuck on one of the chairs there to the right. And then we're just blasting here. Refreshing our dots. They're about to run out. There we go. Got another definite K coming. There we go. Put that down. Just funnel all that rune power into epidemics, right? That's how we do the damage. Epidemic, 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 right? The more epidemics you can do, the happier your DPS meter will look, you know? Just gripping these back so they don't one-shot the tank because they are kind of bolstered. Let's see. We're going to deal with those, no problem, right? And we're halfway through the dungeon with 92% of the count. We're doing the frog skip here, which means that we don't actually run past the frogs to get to the third boss. Instead, we're going to do very similar to before, where you pop your parasol, just jump down and immediately engage the penultimate boss. This is more efficient generally because frogs are difficult to deal with for most classes. Unholy is the exception. We can kind of, you know, dot everything up and run around and deal full damage to them, but most classes it's very difficult to actually deal effective damage to them. Especially classes that require things to like stand in their AoEs. Really hard. Frost, we just press epidemic and have a good time. There we go. I do get quite a lot of questions talking about, you know, is Unholy going to get nerfed now that we see it so represented in the MDI? The answer is no, I don't believe so. The MDI is not a well representative scenario when it comes to live keys. They simply pull far too big compared to what you can do in reality, right? And the key levels are not high enough. So when you look at the meta, which is generally what do you play at very high key levels, Unholy is not generally part of that. We do a lot of good damage, right? So So I don't know actually, we're not better at doing high keys. When it comes, you know, utility, that kind of thing, we don't bring a buff to the team. Some dungeons you need like good off healing as Shadow Priest. They also bring some nice dispels, that kind of thing. So a little bit all over the place. Alright, I'm gonna deal with this boss here. We use Bloodlust. And I'm absolutely gonna mess it up because I'm waiting for my gargle here to come off so I can use it. But the boss is just gonna run into the middle soon and it's gonna absolutely mess up my CD window. Have a look at this. So I popped the army. Right, there we go. Arbiter. Grip that in. Following it up and boom, boss in goes into the middle. And if you didn't know already, the Arbiter is quite terrible at swapping targets. And I managed to die because the pet did a final cast on me. Anyway, so yeah, that's my DPS on this fight. You can see though that everything is being dotted down nicely. And you know, no one's taking damage. And that's due to the priest just giga healing us. And that's the intermission. Something that I usually struggle a lot with. Just becomes really easy without even running a healer. So that's fun fact for you. So I think Shadow Priest is really quite useful in this key because they can help so much here. Alright. We are gripping in the images, which is very useful. Helps the team to deal with them, and we also trying to interrupt them as much as possible. On high Tyrannical, these guys pretty much one-shot you. As you can see, when I died, it was an unlucky cast just before the intermission, so I got kind of comboed. But generally, do interrupt them ASAP, because people will die otherwise. That's good we have a DK though. So you can grip them in, easy peasy. Alright, boss is going into intermission again, and now we can see the real power. I'm going to try and do my multi-dot thing. However, I'm not nearly as powerful compared to the Shadow Priests. You know, I dot that guy up, hit him a little bit, use my CDs, dot these guys up. So it takes a while for them to kind of get started on healing, so using AMS is quite good to do right at the start. But you can see pretty much everything's dead. There we go. And we are back to killing the boss. It's very interesting, like when you run for DPS, some things becomes much easier because obviously you have quite a lot more DPS overall. So for instance, the intermission here is much quicker than usual, which means you take less damage from that. And generally in the key, right, things die quicker. So when you can get away with it, it presents a good opportunity to do more difficult content because, you know, you simply have more damage overall. Alright, there we go. You can see he throws off an orb and he deals 7% of my HP. One death strike and I'm back to full day, you know, just DK things. Alright, this is gonna die. We're gonna head back, go for the penultimate boss. This one, we have a couple of tricks up our sleeve. The frost bomb he uses, we can pre-aim as that. Good kind of dodge. We can also use aim Z, which I picked up to help deal with the AoE. Other than that, we're just gonna kind of not use our cooldowns immediately. Pick up our parasol to get down to safety. Yeah, so I'm gonna hold army and gargle for when he comes back. He jumps away really quickly at start, so I don't want to use any cooldowns there. It's fine to use like Blight, DT, and Apoc, but nothing else. Alright, off we go. We've got a total 11 minutes here, and I think you need it, really. The boss takes ages, right? Really a pain. I save Unholy Salt here. I want to time that with my other cooldowns. You can see the boss is already at 100, so he's going to jump away immediately. I think I'm going to time this with my first AMZ. This doesn't one-shot you, so it's kind of fine. He's going to do it once. If I want to, I can just Death Strike here. I use all my cooldowns though. Alright, and wait there. So we have 5 seconds left. And that's when we use Postal. Oh, sorry. When Army has been out. Gargoyle has been out for 5 seconds. We use an Unholy Salt. and pasta box. And now we're kind of blasting. Frost bomb, we missed that. We can see there we got a 720k. That's a decent no lost arbiter, I'd say. And we're topping the damage here. Alright, important, you can see we have the area where we're going to stack soon, so we don't want to put any bombs there. That's actually one of the reasons we wiped previously. We stacked bombs there. I didn't, but someone did. Alright, you can see I'm not fully topped here, but I'm going to get some Word of Glory there, easy. Death Strike, back to full. Not quite, but you know, I'm going to get healed by the others. Alright, boss it already at 40%, which is quite nice. I think we're going to have to deal with one more phase there. I get the Devastator. I'm going to Death Strike here to make sure I'm healthy. It's quite nice when you do like double Death Strike that way. The first one doesn't heal that much, but the second one, it counts the damage take of an entire duration, which means that it generally is very big when it comes in size. Alright, 30% on boss. We'll keep blasting her. We have Bloodlust in 4 minutes. So we're going to get it towards the middle of the next boss, I think. He's around 100% now, so I'm not going to use any cooldowns. I know he's going to jump away. There we go. We do another AMZ here, making sure everyone's healthy. Which will actually, I think, save us there, because you can see that we got the Apex just before it, you know, came off. And that is difficult to tell when it looks like that. Alright, we're just blasting now. We want to kill him before he jumps back up. I think that's not going to be an issue for us. And once that's done, we're just going to move on to the next boss. Easy kill that quickly, and we're done. You can see we made it all the way around now. Luckily, he despawns the ice there, so we would have been fine. When we got the next ice, it wouldn't have despawned, so we could have moved on. Got 8 minutes for last boss. So plenty of time. One reason is that we have 4 DPS. You can see if you combine our overall DPS there, it is pretty high. I think I get my army coming up in like 50 seconds, so I'm just going to make sure I save pulse box and everything else for it, so I can time it, do some nice priority damage. When the shards show up, we're just going to dot all of those up and make sure we can leverage like our AoE, our spread, you know, however much spread disease dot damage we have, we want to leverage that as much as possible. Boss it pulled, naked skirt strike, you know, dot him up. Come on, biceps. Where's the outbreak? There we go. Alright, we've got army, so press that, immediately do arbiter, spam our death call here. And then we do a POC, and then we do pulse box thingy. You can see that I pressed the macro twice, which was a mistake. You want to press it outside of GCD, so I got that kind of easy value immediately. Alright, we're gonna get, you know, okay gargle around 600k. Got the crystals, we're just gonna outbreak them. Outbreak. I'm gonna run away to the far away one. Make sure I have my Playbringer going. Alright, push those away. There we go, everything's dead. And it doesn't look like you do much damage there, but it's definitely, it is solid. Cooldown's coming up again, we're gonna press them immediately, right? Light, DT, Apocalypse, right? We have Grief Torch as well, we're gonna send that soon. There it comes. Boss is already at 60% health, so we are going in a good pace. Alright. Nothing here that one-shots. Like, if you're a Death Knight, if it doesn't one-shot you, it's not going to kill you. Because what happens, if something hits you hard, you just Death Strike back up again. Alright, got another crystal. Dot them up, you know. There we go. All done. Then we're going to use Epidemic here to cleave them. Make sure we have Playbringer going. Come on, let's go strike, please. There we go. But it's no problem, right? We are not close at actually anything triggering. See this again? Just pop them immediately. We have Arbiter in like 1 minute again, so we are going to try and use that, but boss might be dead already. The shards come in at 75, 50, and 25%. I don't really need to care about here, so Unholy DK, but if I play Frost, for instance, I have to deal with that because Frost is not nearly as good as deal with the shards. Like Unholy, you dot everything up, and that is generally sufficient. Nice. We have our Bloodlust here. I can't really time it with anything, but who cares? I wouldn't have wanted to save my army for that. Like, in hindsight, maybe it would have been better, but like, it's much better to just send it so you don't end up losing a full cast, you know? Making sure we go on the far away one, deal with those. Alright, pop our cooldowns again. Make sure we clear here when appropriate. Boss is dropping quickly now, so we'll soon kill it. So there you go. You can see the reason why Protection Paladins are quite popular in high keys. They just off-heal so much, and they do solid DPS as well. I feel like this Gargoyle army combination is really powerful for that priority damage. It doesn't do as much AoE, but still, it makes you this really powerful boss killer, which I think is useful. Right, we could do the normal disease build, be a bit more AoE oriented, but I like this way as well. And it's good to kind of, you know, try out different things, see what works with your group, that kind of thing. Anyway, leave a comment down below, let me know what you thought about this video. Upvote, downvote, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye. Alright, gamers. Bye bye. Now I'm back. Let's see. Thank you. That's how you do a Myth Plus video. Can't wait to see it. Well, you know, just saw it. I don't do much other kind of editing.